Hey, you guys, happy Tuesday. Tricia Turner here. This is Walk Away Wealthy. Used to be Anything But Average. We changed the name a couple months ago because we joined a different podcasting network. The purpose of this podcast every month, or not every month, but every week, is to bring you positivity, success secrets, some tactics to help you grow your business. And every month, we usually pick a theme that we focus on. And so in October this year, we had EXPCon, which we actually just came back from. And so the theme for October is going to be EXP, how it's changed your life for the better or for the worse. And so naturally, I'm probably going to bring on people that it's changed them for the better because I don't really know anyone that has a bad life because of EXP. I switched over to EXP 4 years now. It was 4 years this October, and it was the best business decision of my life. My life has never been the same. I've got doors that open up continuously. I have amazing people in my life because of EXP. One of them we're going to talk to today. So I have Elizabeth Austin with me. Hey, girl.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so glad that you are here. Y'all, first of all, she's a ball of energy. She has no filter, and she is like killing it in real estate and really is going to tell you like what they're doing differently, how EXP has changed her life, and kind of what she's looking at for the future. So first of all, Elizabeth, tell everybody where you are in the world and how long you've been in real estate.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so I'm in Dallas, Texas, and I've been in real estate for 7.5 years, approaching my 8th this spring. And I've been with EXP Realty since July of 2019.
Okay. So almost 8 years in real estate. When did you, what company did you first start with?
So I was with Keller Williams when I first joined. I wasn't that agent who really interviewed with a ton of brokerages. I was so new. I was like 23 when I got in. So I just went with who I clicked with, which happened to be the team leaders at the certain office that I joined. So I didn't even really explore all of my options at that time of getting in the business. So I went with Keller Williams. And luckily the team that I am partnered with still today and just celebrated my 7-year anniversary with them, actually like October 1st, was at Keller Williams. So within about 6 months of being within that brokerage, that office, I actually found and partnered with the team that I'm still on today.
What is the name of that team?
That's the Good Home team. I'm partnered with Nick Good. Fun fact, I didn't meet him till 2 weeks after I joined the team, though.
That's crazy. Seriously?
Yeah, his brother Austin was actually the one to hire me over Facebook, and I can like spare that backstory of like why I inquired and everything, but I had a bad taste in my mouth a little bit, so I was hesitant to join their team. Austin honestly was really open and allowed me some freedom and flexibility, so I joined. I got shoved in this room all by myself with a computer, with a CRM of leads, with no training, not really any support outside of Austin being open to take some of my calls. But I was like, I don't need more than that. There's leads in here. I'm going to call them. I'm going to convince them to meet with me so I can help them buy a home because I was a buyer's agent at the time. And I remember 2 weeks into being in the team and shoved into this redheaded stepchild room, as we called it, then Nick Good peeked his head in and was like, oh, hey, I'm Nick. And I was like, oh, I'm Elizabeth, who happens to be one of my best friends and business partners today.
That is crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to like unpack some of that. So like almost 8 years ago, the team model was around, but it really wasn't as big. It's definitely not as big as it is now. What made you go to a team instead of trying to do it on your own?
Okay, so when I was at like first having joined Keller Williams at the time, we were going through those initial Ignite classes, everything to get you started. I was so green. The part of what drew me to real estate was how much me and my family had moved, and it always just intrigued me. And I honestly, that was basically it. So I joined the team, or I joined the brokerage, and I was like, what do people do to like get business? How do I get business? I didn't even know you were going to go out there and fully find it yourself. I kind of thought joining a brokerage business will happen. I mean, as most people do. And I remember someone in the office sitting me down and they were like, so what's going to be your lead generation method? I was like, what is lead generation? and then
Yeah.
I was like, can you still give me an example of what lead generation was going to be? So they did. I chose open houses. I've never once to this day converted from an open house. Just so we all know, which I thought I'm so personal. I'll talk to everyone, whatever. I'm a cold caller. I'm a phone prospector. And then I'm a relationship girl after that. But anyway, so I wasn't, even though I knew to do that, I was going around and asking for open houses. I was the least queen of the office, but where to actually go get data, where to go get people who were looking to buy and sell, how to really work that. Not only did I not know the ins and outs of that, I didn't have the money to really go and invest in that at the time. And I didn't know what I was doing beyond that. So I knew I was sitting there every single day, not doing what I needed to do, but also not knowing how to go about what I needed to do. So I kind of sat there in guilt. I also sat there as that agent who is like, I'm going to work on my social media. I'm going to work on my listing presentation, my buyer presentation when I have no one to present it to. So an opportunity came about to join a different team. And pretty much she just said, I'm looking for a buyer's agent. I have enough business for you to make between 1 to 150 a year. And I'm so money motivated. I was like, hell yes, let's go. Let's do it. I joined that team and left within a week time period because this person wasn't really ready to hand over that business. And I don't blame her. She was very sphere based. So it was very controlling, very micromanaging. I would get text at like 5 a.m. Have you followed up with this lead? Have you followed up with this? And I'm thinking, girl, if you want me to follow up at like 5 or 5:30, you need me to even respond at that time. I am not your girl. So I started to go solo again, just knowing that is not the environment for me to thrive in my personality. I went solo again and I kept not doing the lead generation. And I would know I needed to do it, but I still kind of didn't know the how. But honestly, I'm giving myself a lot of like these excuses. Like there's too much information out there. There's too many people willing to help for that to have been a reason for me to not have success. But that's part of my story. So I happened to see I was honestly about to leave the brokerage and go to a place that was just going to like feed me leads, but it was a brokerage model, not truly a team model. And I saw a mastermind with Nick and Austin on it. And then the other top producers within our industry, Josh DeShong, Seychelle Van Poel, Tim Heil. And this mastermind was that reminder of like, you're not doing what you need to do every day. When we were new agents, we were prospecting 4 to 5 hours minimum every single day, building up our business. And that was like my mirror a little bit. That was like, this is on you, girl. So I started to figure out like where maybe I can get data, how I can better host open houses. I started taking these actions. And then Nick's brother, Austin, posted in like our brokerage Facebook group and that they were looking for an ISA. And I had no desire to be an ISA, but they were going to pay $10 an hour. And I was like, this is awesome. It's part-time. I will go be an ISA for you for 4 hours a day. And then I will go work on my business. But proximity is power. And I will put myself in this room, listen to these conversations, get some training, be in this environment. And then I knew my morals, I knew my ethics. I knew I wasn't going to go steal your leads or anything like that, but I was going to take the strategies I learned to go apply them to mine. Well, when I started to reach out to Austin about that, we got into this conversation. He was like, I'm just so confused. Like, doesn't it make sense for you to be a buyer's agent? And I'm thinking, hell no, it doesn't. It was a terrible experience I just had. But I started asking questions and about leadership style and micromanagement and support and everything like that. And it was so chill that then I at least started to ask around about the reputation of the team. And I was like, what do we think? I reached out to people that were on the team. And what's funny is what sold me was one of the people were like, they're incredibly smart guys. We're a little rough around the edges. And I was like, sold. Like I loved that it wasn't perfect. I saw that as an opportunity to not have to be perfect myself, as an opportunity to come in and maybe have a little bit of influence, which I definitely did, about the way that things were done. I love that someone wasn't so set in their ways and they were open. And honestly, the day I joined the team, I was like, oh, this feels right. Even though there was no training, occasionally we met at this point. That didn't really start until the following year. There was no scripting. There was no, once I started having conversations, I could call them or go to them for the questions about how should I do this? How should I navigate this transaction? Writing my first contract took me 4 hours because I'm trying to do it from an example of another contract, but I didn't know what any of it meant. So we've developed from there immensely on how we've created our team and our structure. Because at that point, the reality was it was split into, we had buyer's agents and then we had listing agents, but really the listing agent was Nick.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to work buyers. So it was a very selfish model that supported him. Everything was built to support him at that time. Was, I'm going to bring buyers on to go work the sellers I find on the purchase side. And then any other leads that we generate that are buyers, they can go work. They'll get 50% of the commission or whatever the team split is for working those buyers. If they happen to stumble into a listing, they're just going to hand it over to me and they don't even get any sort of percentage or commission back. Can't believe we fell for that, honestly. But we all did. And even all of the structure was to support him. And so he realized that people weren't going to stay if this was here just to support him. So that started to evolve, and I really pushed them to evolve that, because otherwise I had threatened to leave within a year.
Now, when you first started with them, how many people were on the team?
I believe when I first started, we had about 2 other buyer's agents, Nick as the listing agent, and then we had an appointment setter, and at that point, someone else who was making calls to help set appointments for Nick. This was a licensed agent who was getting a base. Eventually that person went into like a secondary listing agent role with him. And then we had a transaction coordinator and a photographer and a runner on our team.
And then you were at Keller Williams, till 2019, right?
Kind of. We were actually there until 2018. We had, there was a lot of talk about this opportunity at EXP. And of course, most brokerages that aren't EXP or that aren't here just bash it. And they try to just say the obvious. They're just recruiters. In order to make money in that model, you still have to sell homes. And they're not focused on that. They're focused on recruiting. Initially, we didn't do our own due diligence with listening or actually going and evaluating the opportunity. We just believed what our brokers said when they were bad talking it. Yeah. And finally, we were just hearing more and more about it in our market. And Nick is this person who evaluates opportunities all of the time. I'm running the team at this point. I've been team leader for about almost 2 years at this point. And he was like, Elizabeth, I think we've got to look at this. And I finally looked at him. I said, Nick, I will look at this for real. If you're telling me this isn't you just toying around ideas like you always do. I said, however, whatever decision we decide, we make a decision and we don't look back, which didn't fully happen. So I go and I was like, I'll go and evaluate this. I evaluated the opportunity. I talked with people at the company. I legit came back in 48 hours and I was like, oh, we are going. We are absolutely going. I do not know why this has taken us months to actually look at this for ourselves. Well, once we pulled that trigger and made the move, we moved all of our licenses over. That, of course, really triggered KW to know, where are they going? Oh, yeah. And we were one of the top 3 largest teams in the office. We were their number 1 listing team, and then top 3 within overall volume and units. Typically we were number 1, but our volume was a little bit lower. And so they then pulled in the big wigs to come in and talk to Nick and Austin, and they offered the world to them. So I get a call after we moved our licenses in December of 2018. Nick was like, we're not going. We have to sit here and evaluate this. And I was livid. Tricia. Honestly, the smartest thing I could have done to that day was to go ahead and stay and let Nick Good come underneath me 6 months later. Yes. Wish I would have. And I had threatened him at one point, and I was like, if you don't stay, I'm not sure I'll stay with you. I see the opportunity is so great at EXP that I may actually stay over here. I ended up not doing that because of my relationship with them, my position on the team and everything. So we ended up coming back to KW. Well, 6 months goes by. KW doesn't pony up on a word that they promised. Not really. There were some meetings and stuff like that, but the follow through wasn't there. There were still so many hoops to jump through. It's just wild that it was I'm begging you to pay to play. I'm not even asking for anything for free. And so July rolled around 2019. We ended up officially making the move to EXP. We haven't looked back. We did this big promo, launch video for our team coming over. But what's really funny about it is we had shot it in November, December. So in July, we're releasing it and there's Christmas trees behind us. No one knows why. So we're Christmas in July.
crazy. So when y'all moved over, how many agents went with you?
Every single agent but one came with
Okay.
us. And that agent is still at Keller Williams today. And honestly, I'll say this. They're at a team that fits their style. I can't even hate on it at all. It's a really good friend of mine. And I'm like, that team's the better fit for you and your business and your style. And I think that's a huge thing, not about EXP, but not all teams are made equal. So everyone can have success on most teams, but there is an alignment that's going to have to matter.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So when you guys moved over, how big was your team?
Let's say there was probably about 10 of us as far as
Okay.
agents go, that came over. And then, of course, any of our operations team that followed, which is a decent amount of people. But I would say give me a range of 8 to 12 agents at that time.
And so you came over, you were in production, right?
Yes, I was in
Okay.
production. At that point, I'd actually stepped down from running the team. So I was solely producing. Yeah, I'd already done that. I'd done that in April of 2019, and we made the move in July officially of 2019. So,
And then your position since then, how has your team changed and your position?
okay, so my position is roughly the same, I guess, ish. Like I haven't stepped back into a leadership role within the team, but we do like to try and take some of that on within the network now. So as we're attracting other agents to EXP, it is what can we help get you plugged into that's already been created for us from a training, from a support, from a culture, from an access, or who can we connect you to? What can we create for you as well? But I think it's for the better for our team. And here's a few reasons why. At any other brokerage that I'm aware of with their models, they're as much as you want to pour into your people and you want them to be good, I feel like sometimes there can still be a little hesitancy because ultimately, if you leave me, I'm just training my competition, you know?
Yep.
And that can be really tricky. Whereas if you I think it's allowed we're already like honest to a fault, fully transparent, but there is an ease and a grace and a patience and an if we could even get more transparent, I think we did by coming to EXP even within our own team, because now if for some reason it doesn't work out with you and our team, you can still stay within our network and I still want you to succeed because you succeeding means I succeed.
Yeah.
And even if you don't stay within if somehow you weren't within our network, you succeeding in another network within this company, if in case you left and came back or anything, still means the company succeeds. And since we're all stakeholders in this company, I still have a vested interest in every agent in this company doing a good job. Now, you always have to protect your time as much as possible. But now, when I'm sharing my time with other agents, it's not just for a pat on the back that I would get at my last brokerage. That would be very distracting from sales or from agent training or anything. Now it's actually pushing the needle forward for this company entirely. That was a huge
Yep.
shift. And the shift for our team right away was apparent. The shift for talking about helping people that are even outside of our team or our network, that took about 6 months to kind of almost like set in and realize. And I was like, no, I want to help, or I want you to do better because you doing better continues to raise the shares of this company. And we're all stakeholders here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were at Keller Williams and you guys were thinking about leaving, you were like, let me evaluate this and let me look at this. What were some of the things that stood out to you that you were like, oh, yeah, this is a no brainer. Why are we not doing this?
Oh my God. Okay. So everything. I think we would immediately try to just like badmouth like the recruiting side and even the stock and everything like this. And then immediately, once I really started looking at it, and I was like, okay, so everyone wants to say EXP is just full of recruiters. They just recruit, they do this. Well, that doesn't work if we don't go sell homes, meaning I don't reap the rewards of the revenue share program if we don't still encourage sales.
Yeah.
So it's not about not selling homes, it's about adding this other stream of potential income for a lot of the work that we're already doing. And then knowing that we could get stock within the company that could be purchased within the commissions of the deals we're already closing, I was like, okay, so we're adding 2 streams of income that I can choose if I focus on or not, but the stocks can really naturally happen if I do that program that we have, the stock equity program.
Yep.
And one of the things that clicked as we were evaluating, and I've got to give Nick Good credit on this for like how his mind works, is being in real estate, a lot of us want to get those residual streams of income. And we do like to say residual, not passive, because we're like, what's really truly passive these days that I'm not putting any time or effort into it.
Yeah.
But we want these residual streams of income. And we tend to look at that through rental properties and buying real estate. And we were like, okay, when has a rental property ever gone and grown legs and started to grow itself? And the worth per agent that you could make, like revenue share wise, per agent is about typically the same per year that a rental property is going to yield you. But I'm not putting the money in as far as like a down payment in order to go, as well as my rental property has never sat here and grown babies. And when we started to look at that, I was like, and we're already doing this. We're already attracting people to our team, to that organization. And I'm already in these conversations every single day. I'm already selling. We already teach classes, even outside of the brokerage. It all really lined up with making sure that we could build this network, attract people in, give back, help them skill up, help them get into production. And I was like, it's going to take more effort. Don't get me wrong, but it is already in alignment with everything that we do. And I did tell Nick, because out of fear, it's obviously a big fear when you're not only anyone moving from brokerage to brokerage, because it's a lot of work, but when you're already established in one brokerage at the size that we were, and especially within our local community, but even within Keller Williams as a whole, you have this fear of like, first of all, I'm motivated to go prove you that we're not going, like nothing's going to change. This isn't going to be a big flop or a fail. But one thing I said to Nick, because he struggled more, I would say, with making this decision than I did, which I get it. Maybe he had a little more on the line. His name was better known than mine. But I was like, we already do everything to create the business that we have. We don't rely on Keller Williams to feed us leads or connections or anything. And I was like, so the worst case scenario is we don't go get any money from stock or rev share, which stock, it's kind of impossible not to unless we didn't enroll in the equity program.
Yeah.
I was like, the worst that happens is we maintain our sales, because we are already 100% responsible for everything we do for our business. And when we looked at that, I was like, so people can't really come and sit here and say that we failed. And if we failed here, we would have had that same year at Keller Williams, because that's about our business and we control 100% of that.
Yeah. So now that you've been in it and, having evaluated like you did, what do you think is different in your mind versus when you first started? Like, how are things different that when you look at it now, like, what are you grateful for? And with EXP, what are some of the things?
Oh my gosh, so much. So I'm super grateful for the community of agents that are here, honestly, within the company, but like, I love our network. There's such an openness. And okay, so that is a huge difference that I didn't realize when coming into it. And when you're here, you start to have these levels of peeling back the onions of everything you're realizing you're getting from the company. But full transparency from other agents, team leaders, business owners within this company, they're truly opening their books, showing us their playbook, and being really honest with us. Whereas what I noticed at my past brokerage is, and I can't hate on them for doing this, is it's like we would collaborate to an extent, or they would do what they used to do, but not what they're doing now. And I get that. We're a competition. There's not a ton of vested interest for you to have to just share or be open to just sharing everything you do, because then you're training your direct competition. Yes, you're still doing that here, but we all win. So I think it helped increase this abundance mindset that we as agents already like to claim that we all have. It really created that, because it raises everyone's stock value, everyone's game. It's just, that was something that I kind of didn't expect from the community. We've grown so much since we joined. Like, wow, I think we joined when there was like 20,000 agents in there. And I mean, I think we're above 80,000 now. 86. Yeah. So it's a much larger community than it was. And I love that. It just continues to bring these opportunities to more agents, continues to bring more opportunities for all of us to learn.
Yep.
And then the company does a really good job of, even though we're virtual, I would actually say it's truly an agent-centric company, which my past company claimed to be. And I see now where we actually are putting the agent in a position to win and truly care about their success within selling real estate and within these other opportunities, like trying to arm people with these residual streams of income. And the culture is, because of all of that, is unlike any other. And once again, these other companies claim that. I actually feel it here. I actually see it here. And I don't feel like my relationships are simply because of how much I'm producing or bringing in. Because some of these relationships I had when we weren't doing anything from a revenue share or a network, and when we were brand new, and they're still there, or they're heightened in everything, but they weren't there any less when we had nothing versus compared to what we've built now. And that's huge.
Do you find, because I do, when you see like another EXP sign a listing and it's not a competitor, it's somebody within EXP, it's another team, another agent, another something. Do you find that that's like you're happy about that? But when you were at Keller Williams, the previous company, and it's not just Keller Williams, because I was at Remax and all of the different companies. And I found at each of those brokerages, they never wanted to share. They, every time they saw you like achieving more success or doing more or being more, it was like more doors closed and fewer people would talk to you and more people were hating on you. And within our company, and especially within our Honey Badger group, it's like when I see Honey Badger signs or Team EXP signs, I'm like happy for them, because the more market share EXP takes over, I think the better it is for all of us. And I do believe it's the best company. What about you in Dallas?
100%. I will say that, like, at least to give Keller Williams some credit, they still had a decent culture, at least. Well, it's also the only thing that I knew. That has been my only experience prior to this. So I do want to like mention that. But I would say that I would see another Keller Williams sign and there could still be that pride, or I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm this office too. But I would feel like, once again, things were either expected of us to do, go and teach this, go and have these meetings for free, that we wouldn't reap the rewards of. And I'm a big believer of reciprocal relationships, and that is something that I see here, because it all comes back to time, and time is the biggest commodity that we all have. And so when I'm spending my time here doing any of those things, there actually is a mutual beneficial like reward for that. And I think that's really exciting. But you're not wrong. Like, I sit here when I was at KW and I would see that the other agent was EXP, because of what was being spewed to me at the time, I'd probably be like, oh my God, what a joke. What this, because of what they're pitching. And they're pitching that they're not great agents, and they're pitching that they don't really sell houses. So you immediately assume that, as if that applies to that agent immediately, which is total, like, just crazy. It's crazy. But I kind of let someone else do the thinking for me. I'm not going to lie. And I say a lot of us who left Keller Williams probably feel that a little bit, where you're like, whoa, I'm like starting to think for myself again. I'm not thinking what's just preached to me top down from people who aren't actually sitting here producing. And now that was something that triggered us to start looking, as we're like, wait, top agents in this industry, within our brokerage, within other brokerages, they're leaving and they're going over. What are they seeing that we are not? Because they are some of the top agents. And now, and I think everyone would hopefully have this for pride within their brokerage, but I see an EXP agent on a listing or a Honey Badger or any other network. And you're right, I'm super excited. I also, when I call you, I'm like so excited to be like, I'm EXP too. You know, like, I'm very excited about it. But I'm happy for the support. I'm like, let's change this perception that has not actually come from our company. It's come from other people being fearful of us and what we're doing, because we are making waves and we are making an impact. So I do feel like it's very, if someone looks at this opportunity themselves, it's very rare that it probably wouldn't make sense for them. I feel like if somehow it doesn't make sense for you, you're either an agent who doesn't produce a ton, so maybe you should be somewhere that's flat fee, or you're just doing this for any deal that you occasionally do yourself. Like, I get that. Or it's because you haven't fully looked at it yourself and you're looking at the perception that some person did a bad job of talking to you about the opportunity, or you're listening to someone else's words who want to keep you where you're at from looking at this opportunity.
Yeah. And when I look back, like you said, when you joined the team, you've been on a team like your whole career.
I
A
know.
lot of people are out there, even old schoolers that are solo agents. They've been solo agents forever. I believe that the solo agent role is going to be gone in the next 12 to 24 months. I believe the consumers expect a better experience. They expect you to have a bunch of reviews. They expect you to be all over social media, and individual agents that aren't, they're just going to become irrelevant. What do you believe as you continue to form y'all's team and grow your team? What's your thought process on how big you guys are trying to get?
Oh, how big we're trying to get? That's
Yeah.
like probably unlimited, honestly. We are in multiple, from a network side, we're within multiple states. From a company side, like a team side, we're within multiple cities within Texas. And I know our first path, our first goal. So we ended last year around 60, let's call it 62, 65 million in sales. And I know we're wanting to get to that path to 100 million, and we have a whole plan in place. We now are like 31 agents strong on the Good Home team, and that's growing every single day. We've got more systems for support. I think there will always be the individual agent. There's always going to be the place for them, for those select few, not for everyone, but there are going to be those few within a community who happen to have that market share because of their involvement within a community, their longevity within the market. I think there will always be some of those. I do think overall the model of real estate is going more, whether it's teams or whether it's platforms. And
Yep.
there are platforms out there like Place, just like we know one of our very own, Veronica Figueroa, just joined to help continue to support her and her business and her agents, because agents are looking for that of how can we get more support? How can we get more systems? How can we get more lead generation opportunities? And how can we share those expenses with someone to help support us to go out there and focus on, as an agent, not every agent is dying to be the business owner. They aren't. There are some agents who are wanting to be truly that sales agent. And that's how can I focus on lead generation, lead conversion, running appointments, writing contracts. And that's the thing. And building the relationships with my database. And you can go out there and have a wildly successful and profitable career doing that on a team or in a platform model. And sometimes it can be more profitable than you doing it on your own because of the cost of running a business.
Yes, big time.
Yeah.
So when you look forward, like with EXP, for me, like I had my own brokerage and I left there and I'll never go back. Why would I? Like, this is the way of the future. This is profitable. This is being around like-minded people. You're
Yeah.
not like a lone ranger out there by yourself. And independent brokers right now that are running just that independent model, pretty much like a discount brokerage, where you're based solely on transaction fees and sometimes monthly dues, but a lot of them have gotten away from the monthly dues because agents are demanding that they don't want to pay it. And there's
Right.
people out there that won't charge it. So basically, they're surviving on transaction fees. And now that the market has shifted and most offices and teams are down by volume 20 to 40%, they're definitely feeling that right now. You
Totally.
guys are experiencing the shift there in Dallas, just like we did here in Houston. What are y'all doing differently with your agents and your team to help them thrive through this?
Oh, I love this market, by the way. I'm not scared of it in any capacity. I love it. Um, okay. So one of the things that's a perk to being with a team or with a platform is you start to feel the changes before most of the other agents and definitely before the media. So I started talking about this within the team. I think it's April.
Yep.
We didn't feel the shift, by the way, in results until June. But that
Yep.
was the thing. All of these agents were sitting here on social media and they were doing these posts that I would argue are terrible posts anyway, because they kind of still scared the consumer out of buying or selling at a good time. Not selling probably, but they would be like, here's my new listing. I got 45 offers. 10 of them were here. This many were here. And then some of them would post and they would be like, some of these agents though would submit these offers with the seller paying the title policy, or they were under the asking price, or they were this, and they would scold publicly those agents. First of all, I'm thinking you're really scaring buyers out of thinking that they can compete in this market. Let's change the story. Let's change the narrative. Nick and I talked about that a ton then, but I was the only one that sat here and said, I see your point. I was like, but are you not looking at that for the first time in a year and a half? you have an under asking offer and that you have someone asking to pay the seller's title policy. I was like, you're not seeing it in the results, but is this the first signs of buyers pushing back? And so I went on my social media and started talking about that. And Nick was like, good call. We took it to the team meeting. And that's when we started looking at shifting our efforts a little bit at that point. And what's funny is then in June, when we started to see that in the market, and everyone was like, it happened overnight. I went back to my archives for my Instagram stories. And I was like, it did not happen overnight, y'all. You're not paying attention. And that's a perk though, because that then put us 2 months ahead of most agents who some still haven't realized, because if you do a deal that infrequently, their last deal may have been April or May, and they will be thinking that it's this amazing market. And it is a good market. It's just not the market that it was. So I want to clarify that. So that is something where immediately then it was like, okay, we need to go ahead. We're going to soon start seeing expireds and canceled. We need to make sure we're starting to prospect again. We need to make sure we're having these conversations with our buyers as we're getting out there. Make sure then as you're offering on homes, do your due diligence to call the listing agent to see what has actually needed, which we should have been doing anyway. And I do every single time in order to win this home, because maybe it's not as aggressive as you actually needs to be. Yeah. And then more importantly, as we were starting to take listings at that time, we could help push that urgency. If you want this, we need to go now, because we're seeing these indicators. And I did have people drag their feet and drag their feet and drag their feet. And they felt the difference of that. Some of them who had sold with me in April versus some of them who listed with me in June, if they had multiple properties to sell, stark difference. Very, very different. Now, you're still selling at a great time because you're reaping the rewards of having sold high when everyone else inflated the market for the past 2 years. So it's still a great time, but the perception based off what you experienced before, it feels really scary. From the agent side, it was making them aware of this, having those conversations, making sure our operations team is on board with this. And then it's really picking up those prospecting efforts. Yep. I would say that's continued to carry over now, especially coming back from EXPCon. That was something that Glenn was talking about, which is we really need to be doubling down on those efforts and getting back to the basics. And I think we have to evolve as an industry as a whole. Like, we're big prospectors, get on the phone, cold callers, making these dials every single day. Yep. So we're really encouraging our agents to do the same. We're bringing back our script practice and our objection handling, because we didn't have a ton the past 2 years. And it was pretty easy, making sure we're skilling them up on how to get out there and to take listings, something else from EXPCon outside of just doubling down on your efforts to make sure, because actually before I move forward, doubling down on your efforts, we're back to the market where it's like, I do want to prospect every single day, because now I need to make sure I constantly have this flow of business. Meaning, if I set 5 appointments, maybe I'm going to run 3 or 4 of them. Maybe I'm going to sign 2 to 3 of them. I'm going to actually get 1 to 2 of them on the market. I'm going to close 1 or 2 of them. You need to continue to have those efforts, because there's going to be the ones that you sign, that you list, that don't end up selling. It just happens. It's the name of the game, even for the best of the best agents out there. And so you have to make sure that you've got your business stacked and protected, and that you're constantly keeping that flow going as well as, working with your buyers and everything. But talking about something else that I think EXP did a great job of is being very transparent as to where the industry may be headed. Yes. And with some of the lawsuits and everything that were going on with NAR, and talking about the way that, commissions can possibly be paid versus buyer versus seller, it's going to be more impactful than ever for people to want to be out there and be that listing agent and go get those sellers. That way that buyers are also coming to them directly, and they've got a lot more of that control, which we've always wanted. Listings, that's always been the name of the game, but there may be an even bigger impact coming down the line that we're not exactly sure how it's going to play out. That it's the time for agents to figure out how to skill up and be that listing agent. And I love that our company, that's an uncomfortable conversation. That's a tough conversation. Oh, yeah. I love that they were prepping people for that. Now, here's the one thing that bothers me across the industry as a whole is, with this market shifting, everyone fear mongers around it a little bit. And I want to talk about it like it's serious, But I also want to talk about it like it's a real estate market. It ebbs and it flows. Let's stop saying it's bad, it's tough. It's different. And we
Oh yeah.
have to pivot. The last one was different too. They're different in different ways. You have to stay agile and stay really skilled. And it's that time to skill up again in your conversations and making sure that you're understanding what's happening in the market, in the industry every single day to have these conversations with buyers, with sellers, with agents on your team and the network so that they can go and have them as well. And I think our company does and did a really good job of that at EXPCon last week.
I do too. We were in Vegas all week, and like one of the coolest things about EXP, and in addition to like the stock, the revenue share, all that stuff, which is awesome. But really, for me, and all these years, it's the relationships. It's like you knowing you, and though we don't get to see each other every day or every month, and it may only be quarterly or sometimes only twice or three times a year. It's like when we do get together, we don't skip a beat. It's like we just pick up right where we left off.
Totally.
And it's the craziest thing because it's like I have better relationships, a lot better relationships with the people that I've met within the company versus people I've known for years right here locally.
I agree. Like you said, because it's so open, it's so transparent.
Oh.
We don't miss a beat, but we also, it's not weird at all to randomly call each other up and be like, whoa, we're dealing with this within this aspect of our business. Have you dealt with that? What's happening with y'all down there? And I actually have some of those relationships throughout the country in a different manner where they know that their market lags behind ours by like 5 to 7 months or something.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll be like, Elizabeth, what's happening in your market? You're still doing this? Cool, cool, cool. And I love that we have those because that exists within just the regions of within the US of how stuff typically falls.
Yes. And it's crazy because it's like when I first moved over, it was like I got sent to heaven. I was like, oh my gosh, where have these people been my whole life? It's like-minded people,
And what's shocking is so many of us have come from KW, but we have come from everywhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was exposed to brand new agents. Not brand new in the industry, but agents I had never met before, I had never heard before. And I was like, y'all are doing big, big, big business. How was I never really aware of some of these agents outside of just the brokerage I'm at? Because I'm a very like, we like to share, we like to collaborate over competition, And so it did expose me to totally different business styles, totally different agents who were doing big business and then who had the same sharing mindset. So it was amazing.
So did you find, like for me, I was at Keller Williams twice, two different times, once in 2003 and then while I was getting my broker's license. And the only reason I went there the second time is because then it was one of the only companies where you could brand yourself. And I was preparing to launch my own brokerage. And so I wanted to start doing that then while I was getting my broker's license. And so I found while I was there the second time that the top producers and the top producing teams, they may do 20, 30, maybe 40 transactions a year, maybe 40 million a year, maybe. And time in that environment that I was in, I thought, well, that must be it, what a top producer does. And then once I started producing like a lunatic, I was like, well, hold on a second, that's expected. And then once I got with EXP and our group and Honey Badgers, it's like, you better be doing that or you suck, and it's like a whole different mindset. And it's not envious at all. It's inspirational. Like I look at teams that are doing like Veronica's team, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 transactions in a year. If they can do it, so can we. And it's like, they're no different than we are. They just have it down to a science. And what we can do is learn from her because she's a friend of ours, which is even better because
she shares just as openly as we do. Yeah. And she is in the thousands of units a year.
She's a powerful beast. And it's like, she's part of our network. She's a friend of ours. And you have a conversation with her and she wants everyone to succeed. Like she told me before we left the other day, she's like, I got something you and I are going to do together that you don't know about yet. She goes, but I'm going to talk to you about it later. She said, because I believe there's enough business for all of us. And I'm not worried about anybody competing with each other. And it's like, that's such a different mindset than most people have,
It is because it's like at my last brokerage that was preached, but I don't feel like it was really believed.
No.
It wasn't really acted like that way.
No. And for me, I was a single mom for years and at multiple different brokerages. And no one ever was like, hey, here's a lead. Hey, try this. Hey, try this method. And nobody ever helped. It was more like, close that door, close this door, you're on your own. And it
Yeah.
was me sitting there just like banging my head against the wall for so long, just spending money just stupidly on things that didn't work and didn't matter. And
Yeah.
honestly, it wasn't until I met Jay and Mike that changed my life and just showed me the right things in right order, like Jay preaches. And then when they moved to EXP, it was like, well, this is a no-brainer. Jay's like, Tricia, you have a Blockbuster and this is Netflix. You choose. You really want to be with Blockbuster? And I'm like, no.
No.
And I was like, if y'all are going, I'm going, because I'm not going to have you not in my lives, no way.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah. And I know that they would never like be like, oh, you're not in our lives if you're not at EXP, but it's like, I do want that. And we're so grateful. Like, look at what they've created with the Honey Badger Nation from their past experience at the big brokerages like KW, like Coldwell Banker, and then going into their own brokerage and everything. And I mean, Jay selling 500 plus homes a year in Lawton, freaking Oklahoma. Like, that's amazing.
And it's like all of that training that I used to, because I was in their coaching program. So it's like all of that training that I used to pay thousands of dollars a month to is just free and part of our organization now. And we just keep amplifying it and adding more to it. It's like, oh, how about this? And oh, try this. And this is what you're going to need now in this market. Because guess what? That doesn't work anymore because the market's totally different than it was 2 years ago. And it's like, we have all of this. And so for me, like I talk to people every day about EXP and what they're doing differently and why not EXP or whatever. And in my mind, it's always the same message over and over. That many people can't be wrong. Like you look at that many top producing teams, brokerages, everything that are moving over. It's like that many people can't be wrong.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So we'll close on gratitude. Because I believe gratitude's a big thing. And too many of us kind of get busy on not being grateful. So when you look back at your life prior to EXP and now joining EXP in the last 4 years, what are 3 things that you're grateful for?
First of all, I am very grateful of where I started in this industry with Keller Williams, because without them, I would have never met the team that I'm with today. And so I believe in that timing's everything, right place, right time. And that was absolutely the right place for me then because of who it aligned me with, being the Good Home team and Nick and Austin and everything. I'm so grateful that we truly evaluated the opportunity at this company and came over. My only regret is not having come sooner. Like, I wish we would have stuck in 2018 or even had seen it sooner than that and really realized the opportunity. But once again, timing's everything. And then I'm so grateful for our network, like the relationships that I have built, being there, that are even now outside of my team and within this organization that span the country and are starting to expand the globe, because now I made relationships even this past weekend in Canada and in Mexico and everything. And it's unbeatable, because that is the one lesson that I've really learned. I always tell people, like, start in this business as a cold caller, as a prospector. And the longer I've been in it, the more I realized that is what launched me. But it's the relationships I've built that have got me everywhere and everything that I have. And that's unbeatable.
I'm going to touch on one thing before we close: prospecting and calling. I listen to a ton of podcasts. I listen to them every single day. And again, at EXPCon, we talked about going back to the basics and doubling down on the things that really matter. Do you believe that as we move forward in the shifted market, that it's imperative that agents, especially new agents, are cold calling and prospecting?
I do. Yes. And if your prospecting methods aren't cold calling, I do think that's fine. But you've got to figure out, you've got to be proactively prospecting out there. And I actually bought that URL when we were at EXP, just so you know. So more will be coming on that, but you've got to be out there proactively prospecting. I'm not your girl who's going to do the open houses. I'm not your girl who's going to door knock. Those are effective. However, I think cold calling, I love it because I can hit more people in less time. But you've got to be connecting with people that you don't know if you truly want your business to grow and you want to have a little bit more control over it going into this shifting market. Make sure you're doing things like video, like texting, like these types of methods that are going to reach people outside of just a call. But I think back to the basics is huge. Okay, so I started to say this earlier, and I'll elaborate slightly here real quick, but I never finished it. We need back to the basics, and we have to evolve at the same time. So while we're big cold callers, we're hitting our expireds, we're hitting our canceled, we're calling for sale by owners, and we're converting them every single day. We've got an appointment setting team that we've built now that's helping our agents within the team. And maybe that's one day that's something we'll be able to offer to anyone that's within our network as well, which would be really exciting and cool. But we need the basics there. And then we need the evolution of video, the social media, TikTok, YouTube, and everything. And you kind of have to do it all today to be relevant. But that's also where we've got so many great people within our network, within different businesses and organizations. So freaking hire out the part that's not your specialty. Go create the content and hire out the person to edit it. Hire out the people to post, do everything but post it for you. You can even hire out people to write your emails, to write your captions, who know what they're doing and how to convert it. So don't just be totally overwhelmed that you have to do everything. These do not have to be expensive things that you actually hire out. There's Fiverr, different companies like that for pretty inexpensive can help you with it. But I don't think you can just have all of the social media. Some agents are going to argue with that, but I'm a believer of back to the basics, doing what we know works, not trying to always get cute with everything. And this is where these two worlds kind of have to collide now.
I totally agree with you. And I love that you said that. You guys need to be paying attention to Elizabeth because you see, she's very passionate about what she's been doing. She has a ton of experience. She's part of a huge team that's laser focused on production and growing. Elizabeth, for people that want to learn more about you or how they can grow their business, how can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at the Elizabeth Austin. My name was stolen, so I had to add the in front of it. And then you can find me at elizabethaustin.work.
I love it. You guys make sure and stay tuned. We're here every week to give you positivity, to give you success secrets on how to grow your business. Because in the real estate industry, if you're not here and you're not learning, you may not be here in the next 6 to 12 months. So pay attention to who and what you're paying attention to. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being here.
Bye. Thanks.
Yeah, you guys have an awesome day. Bye, y'all.